So yesterday we saw that 4 aspects of the mind. It is fickle, it is impulsive, it is turbulent, and it is unyielding. And sense management begins with, mind management begins with sense management. Different aspects of sense management we saw. Today we come to another aspect of mind management, which is single pointedness. We have seen about japa. Now another aspect of single pointedness is there in this 41st verse. Take the second chapter, 41st verse down. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha guru nandana bahushakahyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. So those who are wanting to master their mind, they have a single pointed conviction. They live in a way by which the mind is focused. Many desires, many thoughts dissipate the mind's energies. So he says that bahushakahi anantascha. Mind wanders in many directions, in many branches of thoughts. Buddhayo avyavasayinam. Such people, they are not able to achieve what they really want to achieve because the mind is not conserved, the energy is not conserved. One of the simplest ways to develop single pointedness of the mind is to do one thing at a time. Those who want to do many things at a time divide their energies. Multitasking, when we speak about, multitasking by itself creates, we know even in a computer, the speed slows down. So psychology tells us that 1 hour of focused work is equal to 3 hours of multitasking. So when we want to master our mind, mastery of the mind becomes very easy when we learn to do one thing at a time, where we can give full focus to that work. And if we are not able to do that, not only our quality of work suffers, there is more dissipation of energy. We spend more time trying to patch up with the wrong mistakes which we have done, or we don't even enjoy it thoroughly. But when we do one thing at a time, not only we are able to apply our full mind to it, we enjoy it thoroughly also. Chances of making mistakes are less. So in the Gita, this aspect definitely comes that those people who are single-pointed, those who can do one thing at a time, generally we find ourselves doing so many things at the same time. Talking and driving, watching television, eating food, listening to music, doing some work. Multitasking has become our lifestyle. Now and then if we have to do, that's a different thing. But if that becomes our lifestyle, you just see how the mind gets divided. Even if you are sitting on the computer, doing one thing at a time, focus will be so much better. But generally we are doing 3-4 things at the same time. Facebook is also open, Twitter is also open, I'm going there, posting a message, coming back, doing something, again going there, checking something. The email also is open, so whenever the email comes, the notification comes. So many things happening, the mind gets divided. There's nothing wrong in that, but the idea is if I want to focus, then I learn to keep my eyes, my mind in one place. So Gurudev always used to tell us, bring your mind where your hands are. That is the secret of concentration. Where is my mind? Where my hands are, there my mind should be. In our culture, there is a nice saying. It says that yato drishtihi tato hastaha, yato hastaha tato manaha. Where the eyes are, there the hands are. And where the hands are, there the mind is. And that's why we saw sense management before. That if senses are managed well, to a large extent we can achieve single pointedness. But where the eyes are, there the mind is. So keep the mind, the eyes, the hands in one place. And this happens by practice. If I am able to bring my mind where my hands are, in ordinary actions in the day, while eating, while talking, while walking, while writing, while being on the computer, in all these actions, if I am able to remain focused, then I would remain focused even in other aspects, whether it is meditation or my work or any skill I am trying to learn, whatever I am doing. Because this habit will not come all of a sudden. And this cannot happen that in sometimes I am single pointed, at other times I am doing multitasking. Because mind is the same, and mind gets contrary signals. So single pointedness of the mind is a very important aspect, and single pointedness is a mastery of the mind. A mind which is single pointed, when it is applied to anything, it will excel in that. Whether it is sports, whether it is art, music, literature, even in relationships. If I am listening to somebody, I will listen completely. Then I understand the person quickly. Why? Because my mind is fully there. I don't know if you are aware, but 90% of our communication happens through body language, not through words. Verbal communication is hardly 10%. If I am present in the moment, I will be aware of the entire communication. But if I am not present in the moment, I am only hearing the words. I am not seeing the body language. I don't know what the person actually is meaning. The chances of getting misled are much more. So to be in the present is a practice of single pointedness. So whatever I am doing, I must train myself to be fully aware of that. Whether I am brushing my teeth or taking bath or eating food, bring the full mind where I am. So that is second aspect of mind mastery. First was sense management, second is single pointedness or doing one thing at a time. Third, we come to Karma Yoga. In the third chapter of the Gita itself is called as Karma Yoga. And in that, this beautiful technique of action is given. The secret of success is given there in the 7th verse. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamya rabhaterjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asakta savishishyate. So he says, one who controls the senses with his mind, indriyani manasa niyamya, meaning one who doesn't waste energy in brooding over sense enjoyments, in dissipating the mind in some worry, some tension, some anxiety. And one who controls the senses with his mind and karmendriyahi karma yoga, and acts bringing the full attention there through the sense organs of action. Asakta savishishyate, a person who is detached, that person will excel. So detached from what? Detached from the fruits of action. That I want this and this result only, and without that I am miserable. That dependence that we have on any action, on any result, that creates anxiety in us. That anxiety makes us weak. Either it will create anxiety, or we will start imagining that when I get this, it will be so nice and I will enjoy and I will feel so good and people will praise me. So the mind entertains fanciful imaginations. Either ways, the dissipation of energy happens. And so he says that those who keep a goal and focus on the process, they are the people who excel. Gita never tells us that don't keep a goal. Because many people think that way, that Gita tells us don't keep a goal, don't bother about the result, don't expect a particular result. But Gita never says that. Gita only tells us you expect a goal, but focus on the process. And whatever results come, accept them. If I learn to do that, more and more energy I will consume. And if you see this method now, so many management professionals they apply, so many sportsmen they apply, businessmen they apply now. If you ask anybody, if you ask Mahendra Singh Dhoni, what do you think about this match? A crucial match is happening. He will say that we are focused on playing the game well. We are not anxious about the result. We will play ball by ball. So many different ways of saying the same thing, that results are that which are necessary, but focus is on the process. So if we learn this technique of detaching ourselves from dependence on the result, that must be the clarity. We are not saying you don't expect a result, but the dependence we have on that result, that without this, I feel miserable. That dependence should go away. And that dependence, when it goes away, you will be surprised that the result comes faster to us. Because all the energy of the mind is available to be employed in the process. If I want a certain percentage, I want an admission, a particular, let us say IIT or IIM or any such institution, then if I am anxious about that result, I will only waste my time. But if I say that no, I need to get whatever, 97%, 98%, whatever that is, now my entire focus is on preparation and how to keep the mind balanced and how to execute it with perfection. But such a person will excel. So he says, asaktaha savishishyate. One who is detached will excel. And detached from what? Detached from the anxiety, detached from the dependence on the result. This anxiety comes to us in any action that we do, where there is a little bit of attachment also. Even as simple as you get a new phone, you wear a new dress, you have a new bike, and there's a dependence that people must praise me. And nobody bothers, then it hurts. Why it hurts? Because I am dependent on that. That I plus this bike is equal to style. And I want people to acknowledge that. And they did not acknowledge. So I depended on that result, and that did not happen. Disturbed. So dependency, we always say that I plus something is equal to happiness. That is called as dependency. And the more such equations are there in our mind, more will be our agitation and sorrow. Now you can find these kind of equations so many. I plus pizza is equal to happiness. I plus iPad is equal to happiness. It goes on. I plus this person is equal to happiness. Sometimes it is minus also. I minus this person is equal to happiness. But either way there is dependency. Why is this person not going from my life? I want him to go, still I know. So either way there is dependency. The dependency creates misery. So he says this is the secret of action, that with senses controlled by the mind which is focused on the goal will not have dissipation of energy. And that mind which is focused on the goal, beauty of this shloka is that one aspect, by keeping focus on the goal, we avoid dissipation through the senses and we avoid dependence on the result. Both happen through simple method. Keep the focus on the goal and on the process. That's all. No dependency on result, no fanciful imagination. And when I get this, what will happen? All that is not required. Then that person saves energy. In very less span of time, one can achieve more when this energy is conserved. Otherwise, the same job we do, that which would take generally just a half an hour, will take us 2 hours, 3 hours to finish. Why? Because the mind is not fully available. So in the corporate world, they call this as smart work. Earlier, if you worked hard, you were praised. You know, what a hard-working person. But today, if you work hard and you stay over time and you do more, take more time to finish your work and all that, they will not bother. They will say you are dumb. Why are you working so hard? You should work smart. You should know how to finish the job in certain span of time. And especially with the timelines being so unreasonable, if we don't learn how to conserve our energy and finish our work smart way, we will only be more stressed out. So the secret of that is keep the focus on the goal, on the process, away from the sense indulgence, away from dependency on the result. This is elaborated in the next one, which is from the second chapter, 48th verse. Yogasthat kuru karmani Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva Samatvam yoga uchyate. So he says Yogastha kuru karmani. Established in yoga, you do your action. Actually, these are 4 points given here, which are the 4 aspects of Karma Yoga. We generally call this shloka as Chatur Sutri of Karma Yoga. 4 sutras of Karma Yoga are given here. First is Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Established in an ideal, do your work. Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya. Drop the dependency on the results. Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva. And when the result comes, learn to accept the result with equanimity. 4th one, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Equanimity of the mind is yoga. So first one, be established in an ideal and work. Second one, drop dependency on result. Third one, accept results with equanimity. 4th one, equanimity is yoga. These 4 aspects are the main aspects to achieve success and yet be without stress. To enjoy that success, to enjoy the process also. So first point is Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Be established in an ideal. I can do work with any attitude. If I have to study, let us say, I can study with the attitude, what a boring thing, I have to go to school, I have to go to college, I have to study, drag oneself to it. Or I can study that this is a subject or this is a field I have chosen, I belong here and I want to go deeper into this study, take this subject to the next level. then I study with a different attitude. Or I may study with the attitude that in this field I will take my country to the top. Or I can study with the attitude that when I gain this knowledge, I will serve the people around me. Depending on what is my ideal will be my motivation. And Gurudev always told us that the higher your goal, greater is your inspiration. Lower the goal, smaller the mindset. Potential of the mind doesn't manifest. So let the goal be higher. And these are not things which are theoretical. You will see this in practical life. In the same country where we are living, and there's so many people talking so many negative things about the country. Abdul Kalam is in the same country, has a very different vision of India, has a very different confidence in the power of the youth. And how did all that happen? Because he kept that ideal, that my ideal is to serve the society through science. And from where to where he has progressed. Sachin Tendulkar from 16 years age, always keeping the country in the mind and playing. So if I know to love something higher than me, more than me, that is the secret of success. And do I love something higher than me and more than me? I love myself, no doubt, but I love the cause more than myself. There all selfishness goes away. And selfishness is the key of all agitation and impulsiveness. So what is it that I love which is greater than love for myself? Do I love my country? Do I love the culture? Do I love a subject? Do I love the community around me? What do I really love where I can lose myself into it? That higher purpose I need to find it. And those who found that higher purpose, for them life itself is a service. Every action of theirs is dedicated to that higher purpose. They live in inspiration all the time. They don't dissipate their energy in ordinary things of this life. 8 years time Vivekananda ji established Ramakrishna Mission. 8 years. With no facilities that we have today of email and fax and computers and all that, nothing was there. Typewriter itself was so rare. And 8 years time he established Ramakrishna Mission, and today they are more than 100 years old organization. This year we are celebrating 150th year of Vivekananda's birthday. In 8 years time what that man has achieved, people cannot dream of achieving that in lifetimes. Why? Because 100% selflessness. I don't know if you are aware, but Vivekananda's sister has committed suicide because there was no food to eat. That was the level of poverty in their house. He is from an aristocratic family, royal family, and his father was a lawyer. But his father had taken some debts, and when his father passed away, Vivekananda was still in college. He had not even completed his graduation. And the family came under that pressure of the debt. All the money went away, everything gone. And there is no food to eat. But he is drawn so much towards that spiritual knowledge. He tries many times to work, to earn, to be with the family, but he is not able to do that. The pull towards Vedanta is too strong. When he asked Ramakrishna Paramahamsa that, can you at least ask Mother Kali, because you talk to her, for you she is manifest. Please tell her to bless me with some wealth. Ramakrishna says, no, I don't ask Mother Kali for all these things, but I can make you meet her. So on the appointed day, on the Tuesday, he goes there to the temple, and Mother Kali comes, gives him darshan, and Vivekananda ji has prepared himself. I have to ask her bless me with wealth, bless me with wealth, bless me with wealth. But when he sees Mother Kali, he doesn't ask. He says, bless me with highest of knowledge and deepest of devotion to serve you and the people around. Comes back. Again, he apologizes to Ramakrishna and says, can you please arrange one more meeting? I am so sorry, I was not able to ask. Again he goes. Again the same thing happens. 3 times he does that, and 3 times the same thing happens. And then he says that nothing is achieved without sacrifice. What if a mother or a sister have to sacrifice themselves for the country? And he takes up to spirituality full time. Because Ramakrishna also passes away. And what a crucial stage in his life when he is pulled by all these forces. Anybody would have been a victim, saying, oh God, what is this? Why should this happen to me? I don't believe in God. This is all unfair. Nothing. It's up to his sister actually, but she lost her balance of mind. She committed suicide. Out of 2 sisters, 1 committed suicide. That was her choice. Other sister and the mother also were in the same state of desperation. But they continued to struggle. And these are his famous words. So many of these. He said, struggle, struggle, struggle. That has been my motto for the last 10 years. That will be my motto for the next 20 years. Struggle. As a seeker, one's motto has to be to struggle in life. And to master the mind, that is very, very important. We don't struggle. We live in happy comfort zone. We don't know sometimes what is struggle of life. Our parents keep us very well guarded from, because they love us, they are concerned for us, so they keep us well protected and guarded. The hard facts of life, the harsh realities of life, sometimes we are not exposed to. And so we live in our comfort zone. So the idea here is that even at such a juncture, at such a point in his life, where his family needs him so desperately, his love for the country, his love for this knowledge was so deep. And if you see his life, it is amazing. It is not that he suddenly found success. For 10 years he lived in this country without being recognized, without being given an opportunity. He roamed around this country for 10 years without absolutely any encouragement. Imagine if you have left your family in that kind of a situation and you are struggling to share this spiritual knowledge and nobody bothers about you. For 10 years, what will you feel? To hell with all these people. I am going to go back and take care of my family. But he persisted. And finally, the recognition comes from where? From abroad. And he addressed that World Parliament of Religions. To go there also, what a big struggle for him. He has to raise the funds for himself to go, because the ship voyage has to be taken up. People are not ready to fund also. That is the struggle he goes through. Lands up there, loses his entire letter of recommendation, everything. How to address the World Parliament of Religions without any letter? How do you approach it? What to do? Where to go? No idea. But he's sitting quietly, peacefully. This is just one example. Like that you see the examples of so many great people. They kept a cause above themselves. And today that is a high time that we do that. If we have to see our country back to its own glory, what it was in the past, we are the youth of the country. More than 70 to 80% of this country is the youth. If the youth have this in the mind, that nation above self is my motto. In whatever I do, I will keep my nation in my mind. Even in simple ordinary things, I eat something, I don't throw the wrapper around. It's my country. Why should I pollute it? From a small action like that to the career that I choose, to the way I choose to speak about my country, to what I really feel, what I can do, in all that, if my motto is nation above self. So the cause is important to us. In that cause I can lose myself. The cause of sharing the spiritual knowledge for the youth. It requires sacrifice, it requires effort, it requires struggle. But that is the deep joy. In Sanskrit there is a nice Subhashita which says that they alone live. Vivekananda's statement also is based on the Subhashita. He said, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. Even the birds and the animals and the trees, they live for others. And we, the human beings, the roof and crown of creation, if we live selfishly, what is our contribution to this society? Nothing. As good as an animal, which comes, which is born, which grows, which builds a nest or a home, reproduces, dies. That's all. Our life also is meant for that much. And if you go through this whole process, in this whole journey, there is only two things that human being does, which the animals and the birds don't do. What are those two things? One is go to a university and get a degree. Second is get married. Animal doesn't do these two, that's all. Nowadays we are not wanting to do these two. Degree I am not bothered about. Marriage I don't want to do. Living relationship is the norm of the day. So then where have I come down to? Which level? So they alone live who live for others. And this does not mean that drop everything. I gave you example of Vivekananda, that is just to see the amount of sacrifice that he did. But even Abdul Kalam we spoke about. It is not that he left everything and renounced everything and went away. Remaining where you are, you can serve. That's why Bhagavan tells him, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. You establish yourself in yoga and act. Arjun wants to run away, but Bhagavan says, no, don't run away. Stay here, fight the war. Even the act of killing these people can be done with a higher purpose, that you have to protect dharma. It is not that I have to win, I have to enjoy the kingdom, my victory, my goal, I am successful, I must be praised. That is a very ordinary, low and base motive. But the motive there for Arjun is, I need to protect dharma, I am a Kshatriya. So remaining where we are, we can discover a higher purpose for ourselves. I give you an example of Sachin Tendulkar also. So many such people you will find. Remaining where they are, they found a higher purpose. The Tata Group, they are known for service, they are known for their ideals. Do you know why the Tatas are not in the billionaires list? And more than 60 to 70% of their funds are allocated to various trusts which are engaged in social service. So you will not find the name of Tatas in the billionaires list. But that's their purpose, their motive is that. So, Florence Nightingale, she found her purpose in serving people. She didn't have to go anywhere else. So remaining where I am, I can serve. And I can serve with a higher purpose, to let my ego dissolve. Then you see the unimaginable potential that will manifest. The materialistic world will only tell us to boost our ego. But the spiritual ideals will tell us that burst your ego, dissolve that ego. And when that ego is dissolved, infinite power manifests. So Yogastha Kuru Karmani, established in a higher ideal, do the work. Then he says, Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya, cast off all the attachment. The deepest attachment is to the image that I have. My image. No doubt, for a functional reason, I must maintain a certain image. But psychologically, I should know that it is only a role that I am playing. I am not limited by that. Everything that we do is only for our image. So many times we make mistakes and we cover up, we defend. Why? Because our image should not go down in the eyes of people. How easy it is if I just accept that, sorry, I made a mistake, I won't repeat it further. It's that much only. If a person does that, the person is straightforward, person lives guilt-free, person lives stress-free, doesn't have to maintain a false image all the time. Arjun was like that. So mastery of the mind comes from straightforwardness. The name of Arjun itself means that, one who is very straightforward. Those who are cunning, those who are malicious, who are disintegrated, who show one thing outside or something else inside, they cannot hope to master the mind. Forget it. One has to be straightforward. How will I be straightforward? Only when I love the ideal more than myself. And I am not bothered much about that image. I only take care of it as far as it is good to focus on my goal. I am not otherwise interested. So that person, you see in Mahabharata war, difference between Arjun and Duryodhan. Duryodhan also is scared, Arjun was also tensed. But Duryodhan could not accept that he is scared when he went to his teacher Dronacharya and he taunted him and came back. But Arjun accepted that, yes, I am miserable, I am feeling giddy and I am feeling incompetent right now. And in the battlefield, he is able to come down to Sri Krishna and surrender and says, please guide me, I don't know what to do. And he doesn't have fear about his crying. Imagine that mindset. Otherwise anybody can think, oh my God, both the armies are there, so many people are there, in front of them I should cry. No. Let me not. It will lead to loss of my image. What loss of image? If one is straightforward, one lives simple. And simplicity, straightforwardness is the key of mind mastery. Surrender happens very easily with simplicity and straightforwardness. Without simplicity and straightforwardness, surrender is impossible. Cunning mind cannot surrender. That cunningness will prevent that mind from surrendering. And the mind which doesn't surrender will not manifest its higher potential. It will remain trapped in its own shell of ego. This also doesn't mean that whoever is there, whoever meets you, pour out your sorrowful story. Why? I am straightforward. It's just somebody has to just ask you, how are you? Start. That is not the meaning. The meaning is simple. That love a cause more than yourself. Don't be so attached to the image. If I can remove my attachment to the image, the dependency on result will go away. Because the dependency on result is only for this image. And when I get this result, I will be much better than what I am now. It's a functional thing that, okay, when I get this promotion, I will get a hike in the salary and that will help me to have some more comforts. No issue. But to think that because of it I will be more happy than today means I am depending on those comforts, I am depending on those enjoyments for my happiness. That dependency can go away. So two aspects we saw. Be established in yoga, which is a higher ideal, and drop all attachment to results and to image. Then whatever result comes, the third aspect is Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva. In success and in failure, remain equanimous. Equanimity is yoga. That is the fourth aspect. This equanimity of the mind is actually the state of mastery of the mind. A person who can remain equanimous has a certain mastery over one's mind. But very easily we can swing. Success comes, we get elated. Failure comes, we get dejected. We can go up and down very easily. If you see small children in the park, they play that seesaw. Going up and down, up and down. They feel so happy. We as adults, we don't play there, but in our mind we keep doing that. Up, down, up, down, up. Swamiji, if we come to the center point and remain unaffected, remain equanimous, what a boring life. Enjoyment is there. I believe in living life to the fullest. Enjoy fully. Break all barriers. And suffer also fully. Break myself fully. Live life to the fullest. If I am equanimous, I can live life to the fullest actually. Because I keep going up and down, I dissipate energy. Not that people who are equanimous don't enjoy their life. They are very happy, they enjoy their life also. But they know that this will go. So they are not dependent on that. So if success comes, they say welcome. If failure comes, they say welcome. Our problem is we say welcome to success, but we don't want to say welcome to failure. But that cannot happen. Life moves in pairs of opposites. If heat is there, cold will be there. If success is there, failure will be there. If praise is there, insult will be there. If I want one only, then there is a problem. Because God is very kind. He knows our mindset. Consumer mindset is what? 1 + 1 free. So you take one, another comes free. Either take that or be equanimous in both. To a certain extent, Dhoni is very equanimous. Which was the recent thing we won? What did we win sometime?
Australia.
Not Australia. Huh? I don't remember. Dhoni and Virat Kohli, both of them were batting. And we won the match. I think with that we won the series also. And you should have seen Dhoni, the guy quietly comes out. And if Virat Kohli goes around jumping, ha, hoo, ha, he do everything. If you see Dhoni most of these times, the guy will be very balanced. Now that he doesn't enjoy, he also will enjoy. But because the mind is cool, he can think so many things. That's why he's got that tag, no cool captain. So the mind is equanimous, balanced, and think. So the idea here is that a person who remains balanced is a person who has mastered the mind. So before the action is my mind quiet, during the action is my mind quiet, after the action is my mind quiet. That is called samatvam, and that is called as yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. That is the key of all successful action. How my mind is quiet before the action, not anxious about the result. In the action, fully focused, concentrated. So inspiration before the action, concentration in the action, and complete detachment after the action. I am not dependent on the result. Whatever comes, I will accept. So if that we learn, our mind, whatever we do, wherever we apply the mind, we will be successful effortlessly. Because we have conserved the energy of the mind, channelized it to a higher purpose. So we will end this session with a small video that Gurudev, sometimes we have shown. This is one of the most popular videos of Gurudev. It is on the same theme of Karma Yoga.
He indeed, avaram, lower karma. You are sweating and toiling and your action, your selfish action, prompted by your ego and egocentric selfish desires, in which the millions are sweating and toiling from morning till evening. That's karma. It is only prompted by instincts and impulse. It is like animals suffering or running about. It is pure labor. It is not the man of achievement. Mere laborer. Durena, by far lesser, is this unnecessary sweating and toiling in the world outside, complaining of the tension, stress and strain of life. That is not real work. Work is inspired. Where the worker never understands tiredness, exhaustion. The joy of that work itself replenishes the true worker. Durena hyavaram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya. Hey Arjuna, please understand. As compared with the buddhi yoga, where you have got an ideal and you are pursuing to reach the ideal. It's an inspired enthusiasm with which you are living. That the joy of true work is any day nobler than all the amount of buckets of sweat and toil that you bring out of you, the exhaustion and fatigue you bring about physical. That is only labor. That is not work. Durena, Buddhau Sharanam Anvecha. My dear boy,